Hey, what's up, guys? It's Philly Wonka here, and today we're going to be discussing about how to develop camera confidence. Now, as somebody who has been trying to get in front of the camera for the past 8 years and only successfully done so, well, more or less in the last 2 weeks, I feel like I have a little bit to say on this, but I also at the same time recognize that I am nowhere close to the goal that I have set for myself or the standard of quality of expressing my thoughts in the way that I want to. It's just that I have conquered a small portion of my fear and I want to pass down those lessons to you. So, the first thing that we want to resolve is the intention. Why do you want to speak in front of the camera? Well, for a lot of people, it can mean a lot of different things. But for me, it was mostly about conquering a fear, which is statistically the number one fear that most people have, which means that it's a very common fear. The fear of public speaking, the fear of being in front of the camera and having their unique voice heard. And since it's a very commonly acknowledged fear, when you break past that fear and show courage, that courage is recognized by most people, which is like a very um, niche way that you are marketing yourself and separating yourself from the competition. It also forces you to improve upon your vocabulary and your speaking skills so that you can effectively be a better communicator. What does this do for you, really? Why do you want to be a better communicator? Well, essentially, it has the potential to open doors that were once closed, and it can broaden your avenue as to what you can do in your future life. What I mean by that is, if you specialize in a certain frontier, which I assume that you do, whether that be filmmaking, painting, music, or even something less creative such as finance, talking about it gives you a certain sense of authority over that subject, especially if you are consistent throughout with it. And this authority is recognized by people that are actually seeking for your services. So, in effect, it actually paves the way for you to market yourself better and for you to sell your specialized services in the most profitable manner. So, for example, some of the people that have recently popped off, especially on social media and YouTube and other such platforms, like the works of Andrew Huberman. Like there are a lot of neuroscientists out there in the world, but none actually communicate their ideas the way Huberman does. And a lot of people are following on his footsteps. You know, a lot of scientists are following on their footsteps. Podcasting is becoming a huge thing these days, and like mostly everybody that's um, leading on a certain industry in their field has appeared on one podcast or another. And all of these are just indicative of the fact that if you choose to put yourself out there, there is an audience that is willing to listen to you. Now, this effectively transfers over into your social life also, and you can actually attract better friends, mm, and better partners in better relationships. It's just overall a better way for you to elevate your life. And for me, that was one of the key aspects of doing this work. The actually stepping outside my comfort and putting myself out there, because this discomfort is what attracts a lot of people into my life presently. And that is why I'm able to retain the quality of friendships that I am able to retain. And that's why I'm able to spark certain friendships and relationships with people in a very um, quick note, as opposed to when I wasn't really speaking in front of the camera, wasn't really working on my vocabulary skills. Like, just hear me out, right? We as men are very we are not very forgiving when it comes to a woman's beauty. Well, that is the case for most of us. The girls that we find most attractive are actually the most beautiful girls. Like physical appearance matters a lot for us. In the same way, girls are not very forgiving of a guy's verbal skills. Like one might beg to differ that like physical attractiveness has nothing to do with the quality of a partner that that person can be. But at the same time, we can also argue that verbal skill has nothing to do with how much of an expert you are in your field and the quality of work that you can output. But these are things that the human species has come to appreciate, and we shouldn't dismiss of them. Because back in our ancestral days, like the reason why we have this fear in the first place is because we fear that if we speak out loud and for some reason people don't seem to accept our mannerisms or the way in which we choose to project our ideas, we might get rejected or we might be mocked or made fun of, and that social upstanding seriously affected our survival. And so it's ingrained in our genes to be scared of this kind of stuff, especially public speaking. Speaking in front of the camera is still relatively easy, but I think it's the first step in order to go about with public speaking, because you can afford to make mistakes. It's not like you can't afford to make mistakes with public speaking. You can. It's just that there is more at stake over there than over here. So keep in mind all of these things, right? Like there is a reason why we are scared of this. There's a reason why this is the number one fear in a lot of people, or at least the most common fear across cultures. So, after all of this, you might be wondering, so how do I start? Well, my recommendation to you might be the most obvious one, which is to start a YouTube, but keep it very low key in the sense that you don't tell anybody about it. Start a YouTube and start speaking in front of the camera. And you might say, like, I don't have as much equipment, like, I don't really have the production value in order to start. Who cares? Seriously, who cares? Because the idea is that we get over our fear. It's not to attract a certain audience at this stage. Because, like, you might say, like, what's the point of uploading videos when I don't have an audience? Well, my argument to that is you will eventually end up speaking a lot of shit. And you talk way too much about things that you shouldn't be speaking about. And if you have 5,000 people already watching it, you might be even more reluctant to speak that shit. So it's important to talk shit and get that shit out of the way, and then eventually refine that quality, and in doing so attract a certain audience. That's the most viable strategy that you can do. So keep a low-key YouTube channel and start recording. Just record. Just start recording. And you might be wondering, well, okay, but how? Well, that how is for you to discover. And what I mean by that is there are different nuances when it comes to recording. Different nuances that you can observe within yourself when you take the format of that recording and place that into different situations. So, for example, you could try vlogging. You could try sit down content like the one that I'm doing over here. You can try voiceover content. These are all different types of content that encourages you to be creative, but at the same time changes the dynamics and the playground in which you choose to operate with. For example, if I was not sitting on this chair that I am sitting on right now, which is a flat stool with no backrest, and I substitute this with a chair with a backrest that I can like lean back on, the quality of the content that I am going to be delivering is going to be very different as compared to what I'm doing right now. The same way, if you just click record on an iPhone on the selfie camera and just move around your space just in a vlog style, the quality of the content is going to be very different as opposed to the quality of a podcast, let's say. And it's not just technical quality differences like the microphone or the image quality. That's not what I'm talking about. The quality of your thoughts, the quality of your presentation, all of these differ. And there's no good or bad in this. It's just a diverse range, and you should experiment with all of these ranges in order for you to be familiar with the idea of even speaking. So for me right now, speaking in an unscripted, well, fairly unscripted, just there is a roadmap for how I want my structure to be laid out, but there's no real script. But at the same time, there's no cuts in between my videos as well, which I think is like one of the most challenging things that I want to nail in the upcoming future is how can I make my speaking in such a way that it becomes effective communication without boredom being introduced into the mixture, which is very difficult to do in today's very short attention span era. So that's what I am trying to focus on today. And the reason how I even came to this is because I've seen other people do it, but at the same time, I've experimented with so many different things. Like in my channel, if you go and see, you can see that I've tried experimenting with sit down content where I'm just laid back and just speaking in a more relaxed format. I'm speaking like this. There's going to be more vlogs coming. There are different formats that I'm experimenting with, but this is the one that I truly want to nail because this is the one that truly tests the limits of my verbal um, improvement over the years. You see, so I would encourage that everybody try representing themselves in the best light possible on YouTube. Even if you don't choose to share that with your friends or family, you can keep it strictly to yourself. But I would urge that you just upload for the namesake of uploading, simply because the next year you're going to be very thankful that you started today because you get to see how much progress there's been. You know, if you go and look at my channel, you can see that I haven't really posted all that much, but behind the scenes, I have actually put in a lot of work just talking shit and being as comfortable as possible, expressing my ideas in the best light that I was capable of then. You see, you have to also reflect on your younger self in kindness because when you do this, the reason why you even became better and the reason why you cringe at your old self is because that old self took that initiative of making that first step. There's also a very huge spiritual component that's involved with presenting yourself in front of the camera, especially when you're talking about something that you're extremely passionate about, because you have to find certain points, pressure points really, as to how this really benefited your life, especially if you're telling somebody, hey, like, you should try painting. And this is why. And that why holds a lot of significance. Like, I don't think you guys understand, like, more than understanding how to do something, I think it's important that we understand why we do this. And talking to yourself, talking to a camera, and putting that out there helps you understand that in a more significant depth as you once from when you originally imagined the reason why you were doing it, and that gives you a much more deeper appreciation for the things that you are doing. Now, I would also encourage that you guys go ahead and do public speaking. This is something that I dipped my toes in about 7-8 years ago, because my mom actually forced me to go, and I'm so grateful that she did, even though I was extremely reluctant at doing it first. So at every major town and city, you can find a Toastmasters group, if not more. And Toastmasters is a very safe space where you can just go, and there's a bunch of um, people that are experiencing the same problems as you when it comes to public speaking, and all of them come together once a week and speak, really. And my favorite was not the preparation speeches within Toastmasters. I think they were called P1, P2, and I think they were up to P9 in the club that I was in. Actually, my favorite was table topics, where they gave you one topic that you had to randomly short from a raffle, and you had about 30 seconds to come up with what you want to speak based on the topic that you had on that raffle. And you had to speak for it for a minute. And I remember every single time I used to go for table topics, I used to always come out first because my ability to talk shit on a topic was unparalleled. It's also the confidence in which you present that, right? Like, courage is extremely noticed and rewarded when it comes to speaking in front of your camera or public speaking. So that's kind of like the essence of speaking in front of the camera, at least for me, and why I choose to do it is because it really helps me with my personal growth, and it really motivates me to get my shit together and bring an assortment of my ideas and sort of synthesize everything and then bring that forth to you guys for more value. And in so doing that, I get to learn a lot about myself, and I get to learn about my weaknesses and my strengths, and I get to improve on who I am as a person. I get to develop and self actualize. If that seems like something that you want to do, oh man, I don't think there's anything better than documenting your journey of doing so and appearing in front of the camera. I hope that was enough to sell you on this idea that you should put yourself in front of the camera and actually get good at speaking. I have shortcomings. I am not perfect myself, but over the course of the years really, I have grown to appreciate how much I have grown with this skill of mine. And I heavily say that this is a very underrated skill that everybody should pick up. Like, I don't know if you guys know Ali Abdal, the productivity YouTuber, who said that one of the most underrated skills that you can possess today is camera confidence. So I feel like it's in everybody's best interest in order to develop this camera confidence, because it's going to manifest into so many different aspects of your life, and you're not going to know where your life even took off once you start doing this journey. So hopefully that's enough inspiration for you to get started today. As always, stay tuned for more content. Philly Wonka is working on a lot, and it's been a slower process than I had initially imagined, especially with this format. But there is much more coming, and I can't wait to share them with you. So until the next time, peace, guys.